All right, well, I think we'll get going. We are recording this webinar, so if you have to leave early, we will be emailing out a link. We had 190 people register for the webinar, so if you are joining us today, finding ways to look for summer camp staff, you certainly aren't alone. I think universally people are struggling with this. My name is Sarah Kurtz-McKinnon. I'm the co-founder of the Summer Camp Society. We're a community-oriented professional development group for camp leaders at all levels. And we strive to provide you with content that is incredibly helpful to you and also pushes our industry forward in terms of how we think and interact with and serve people. So I'm really excited that Christian Isaac is joining us today. So Christian has a long background in camp as a frontline staff member, as a counselor, as a camp director, as someone who helped start a brand new camp in the Pacific Northwest. And Christian is now a client success specialist at LinkedIn. And so not LinkedIn, at Indeed. My bad, awkward. You do work for Indeed, not LinkedIn. And Christian is still a member of the Summer Camp Professionals Facebook group. So a few days ago, Christian posted that he was willing to help folks that were struggling and wanting to better utilize a service like Indeed. And he got a ton of comments and likes on this offer of help. And so we thought maybe we could make Christian's life a little bit easier by giving him a microphone to talk to many people at once. He said he's made more than 20 one-on-one appointments with camp directors in the last few days because of that initial offer and that post. So people are certainly kind of stuck, but Christian understands Indeed, and he also understands camp and being a camp director and what types of candidates you're looking for. So we're hoping he can connect some dots today on the strategy behind using a service like Indeed and what you might want to do to use it really well. So I'm going to be here in the background. I'm going to disappear and let Christian do about a 30-minute presentation. And then at the end, I'll come on for 20 or 30 minutes and I'll moderate a Q&A session. So you can ask him anything that is still on your mind, and then we'll email out the recording of the webinar to everybody that signed up so that if you have to leave or you didn't make it, you can still see it or you can revisit it. So Christian, thank you so much, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for having me. This is super exciting for me. For me as a former camp director, camp staff, and now to be able to share kind of my expertise on using Indeed. This is, I really think, just a great opportunity to help people get the right people in their camps this summer. I know that it's it's kind of always a challenge to get staff for summer camp, but it's really a challenge this summer coming, out of this pandemic. It's challenging for everybody. It's challenging for everybody across the board. So, I'm really excited for this, and I'm hoping that we can, what I have today to share is helpful for everybody here and watching later on, because I really do believe in Indeed and believe in what they do and what we do. And as a former camp director myself, I've used Indeed and I've hired folks from there. So Indeed has some really great stuff that I think will be helpful for everybody here today and again watching later. So to start off, I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen here and really just walk through kind of the Indeed dashboard. So let me share my screen and let's get this rolling. So right here, this is my personal Indeed dashboard. This is kind of what I see when I log into Indeed as an employer. Now, this is my test account, and I created a camp counselor job today just to roll through this. But on this dashboard here, you're going to see a few different things. So up here in the top left corner, you're going to see the Indeed for Employers logo. When you see that, that means you are in the right spot if you're looking to hire people. If you see just the regular Indeed logo there, that means you're in the wrong spot and you're probably looking for a job. So we want to make sure you're in the right spot there first. The second thing that you're going to see is you're going to see these three different tabs here. One is going to be the dashboard. The second one is going to be the find candidates, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And then the third one is going to be the analytics, which we'll talk also about a little while later. But the first thing I want to go through is this dashboard. So There's a couple of different ways that we can post jobs on Indeed. The first one is, and I'm sure many of you have already done this, is posting your jobs directly onto Indeed. And this is what we call Indeed hosted jobs. These are jobs that, you kind of take, you copy your job description and then paste it directly onto Indeed. And so I'm going to go ahead and walk you through what that process looks like a little bit and give you some quick tips and tricks on how to make this setup process as efficient as possible. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here and click this post a job button. What that's going to do is that's going to bring me to this screen here that asks, how do you want to post a job? Like I was saying earlier, the first option that we have is that hosted jobs option, and that's going to be this build a brand new job right here. Now, the other option that I was talking that exists is what we call indexed or aggregated or scraped jobs. And basically what this is this takes the jobs that are already existing on your career site, on your website, on your applicant tracking system or ATS, and that will take that info from that site and pull that directly over to Indeed. What that then does is that creates a job on Indeed, and then when somebody goes to click on it, then that applicant will be directly taken to your website. Now, there's a couple of differences here when it comes to the hosted jobs versus the jobs that are scraped. We often see a lot more candidates apply to jobs when those jobs are posted directly onto Indeed versus jobs that are scraped from your website. As a job seeker myself, I know that when I was looking on Indeed, I would often just not apply to jobs where I had to go to somebody else's website because I already clicked the apply button on Indeed and then was taken to another website and had to go through all of that. So here's what I would recommend here. Build the hosted job, build the job that's posted directly onto Indeed, because that's really going to be your best bet when it comes to getting the most applicants as possible. I understand that there's certain requirements and everything through getting people through your applicant tracking system or through your HR process. The best thing I can recommend there, and this is something that I did in the past when I was hiring for folks, is still having people apply directly on Indeed, still posting those jobs directly on Indeed. And then once you're ready to make that offer, then have them apply to your website and then have them go through your HR process and everything there. I found that we see a lot less drop off when we do that. So let's go into the hosted side or posting a job directly onto Indeed. So I'm going to click create a post here. And what that's going to bring me is going to bring me to this screen here. Start from scratch, use a previous job template. I don't have any previous templates, so we're going to start it from scratch. From there, it's going to bring me to this getting started page. So country, you want to make sure that's the right. Language, you want to make sure that's right. Company name, again, this is a test account. My company name is called the Zoo because we all know camp can be a zoo sometimes. Industry, what you're going to want to do is just click the right industry. For camps, you're going to want to choose the arts, entertainment, and recreation industry. That's probably the one that's most relevant to all of us. There is unfortunately no subcategory for camps, but this is a good option right here. Job title, you can type in camp counselor. That'll pop up right here. And then what that'll do is that'll bring up what category does this job fall under. So after school and camp counselors, there it is right there. Boom. Next thing down here, it asks kind of the best option for this role's location. So if you're hiring for one location, which probably most of y'all are, you're gonna go ahead and click this right here, one location.
Hey, Christian, can I pop in with an important question?
Absolutely.
Thanks for letting me interrupt, but I want to handle this now. I think Sam writes in the chat, a lot of people are picking education instead of arts and entertainment. What happens if you pick education? Can you still get to camp counselor, or do you really recommend arts and entertainment?
I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. I think I would, depending on your type of camp, right? There's different types of camp out there. If you're more an education focused camp, maybe choose, if you're in a school or something, maybe choose that education route. But I think for the most part, what I would do is choose that arts, entertainment, and recreation category. In the long run, it might not matter. Indeed is really based on, when folks go in and search for jobs, it's really based on the keywords that they're typing as well as the relevancy to the location. So industry, you know, that's,
Don't
yeah,
lose a ton of sleep over the industry piece is what you're
exactly.
saying. Okay, cool. So
Exactly.
there might be some
Yeah,
good options in there. But arts, entertainment, and recreation would be kind of the default that you would go for.
exactly.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'll disappear again.
Yeah. And if there's ever any other questions, I'm not paying attention to the chat. So feel free to pop in whenever.
Okay, I will. Thanks.
Awesome. So right down here, we got that one location. You can choose multiple locations if you're hiring for multiple sites. And that's a great tool there. You want to put in the street address. This is our address in Stamford, Connecticut, where one of our offices is based. Now, this is a really great tool right here, and I want to go over this because this has been really helpful as I've had the 20 plus meetings over the last week or so. What I've seen a lot of folks doing is they will kind of post a job, and then in order to advertise it in multiple locations, they'll post the same job but just in different locations. So that then creates 10 different job postings that you're having to monitor in different locations, right? This is bad, and we don't want to do this. And if you're doing this right now, we want to make sure that we can help you in this, because what will end up happening is our search quality team will actually flag that because it's considered what we call location blasting. And so that goes against Indeed's policies, but don't fret, there is a way to advertise in multiple locations. I know this is super important for camps as we're recruiting, you know, all over the nation and even all over the world. So there's this option here to advertise in an additional location. So right now we're advertising in Stamford, Connecticut, in a 25-mile radius around Stamford. To advertise in an additional location, all you got to do is click there, and you can add up to 10 cities or states. Now, this is a paid feature. So again, if you're sponsoring a job, which if you used Indeed for a while, that, you know, or if you haven't used Indeed at all, it basically means that you're paying for that job to get higher visibility when folks search on Indeed for camp jobs. So that paid feature is included when you do sponsor that job. This has been great, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on this, just because, you know, again, camps are recruiting for everywhere, and so this is something to take note of here. Moving on here, can this job be performed remotely? Some people are doing virtual camps, you know, and if that's you, you feel free to click that there. I am actually going to exit out of this now, and I will stop walking through the process because it's pretty self-explanatory the rest of the way. So once you've set up your job, then it'll pop up here in your dashboard. So like I said, I've already created a test job, camp counselor in Stamford, Connecticut. And this is really where you're going to see all of your candidates and all of your jobs. So right now I have one active candidate, and that candidate, I can click on that. That candidate is myself, Christian Isaac, camp director right there. And so what's really great about this is you can kind of go in and review their qualifications. So if I click on my name there, and I'm going to share my resume, so don't be surprised when you see everything there, but you can kind of see all the information here. So the first thing that pops up is the applicant qualifications. On the back end, on the last step of creating a job, you can set up applicant qualifications. So these are the things that I set up here. You can send assessments, which is really great. Those are things like you can do a phone interview, an automated phone interview. You can set up childcare, like experience related assessments. Those are super cool and things that I used when I was using Indeed to recruit staff. And then you'll see all of their resume and job experience right down there. One great thing about using Indeed is that you can set up virtual interviews right through Indeed. You don't have to use Zoom. You don't have to use Microsoft Teams. You don't have to worry about sending links to people and doing all that and managing all that. You can actually do it right here on Indeed, which is probably one of my favorite features now. So to do that, you can go and click Setup Interview. And what that'll do is that'll bring you to this page here. You can choose the date, you can choose the time, you can suggest multiple times. You can choose video, phone, or in person. You can choose to use Indeed's video conferencing, which is recommended, obviously, because it's all automated. Or you can use your third-party video conferencing like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever. And then you can go ahead and send a message down there. What'll happen after that is the candidate will get a email saying that, hey, you've been invited to the interview. They'll click it. They'll enter in their information, they have the option to include their resume. They'll update their phone number, and then they'll confirm the interview. From there, when the interview time comes, then they're able to get a text to their cell phone, and they're able to go ahead and just click in there, and that'll take them straight up to the interview room. On the employer end, you'll get an email with kind of that same information outlining the date, time, if the candidate has confirmed, and then there will be a link in there to go ahead and hop into that interview room. So a few more things here. You can go ahead and, Indeed is kind of moving towards the applicant tracking system kind of stuff. And so there's a few things that you can do here. You can mark whether or not they're interested. Maybe it's a maybe, or you can mark whether or not they're, or whether or not you're not interested. You can flag them as unqualified. You can change their status. So right now my status is awaiting review. I can change that to contacting. And so now if I go back to my jobs dashboard, it'll say right here that I'm contacting one person. And so that's a really neat feature to kind of track where folks are at in the process. You'll see that same information here in the candidates tab. So here I am again, right here, interested, yes. And then, yeah, so that's that. Few more tabs over here. There's the messages tab. So that's where you're gonna see all of your messages with candidates. There's the campaigns tab. That's, again, with the sponsored jobs feature, that's where you can kind of track all of that. And then the virtual recruiting assistant, that'll kind of help you, get more candidates, and Indeed is kind of taking over some of the sourcing aspect of that. So that's about it for this tab. The next thing I want to show you is this analytics tab up here. So we've got the dashboard, the find candidates, and then the analytics tab. Under analytics, this is really cool because this will show you kind of all of your job info. How many people have seen it, how many people have clicked on it, how many people have applied. Obviously, I don't have much data on here. I do have data from a test job that I had up. So that's great that I can show you some of that, but I don't have any data for the new job. But this is really cool because you can go through here and kind of check out, like, are people seeing my job? Are people clicking on my job? What's the click-through conversion rate to that? How many people are actually applying to my job? This is probably one of the most underutilized features of Indeed, mostly because people just don't know that it's there. But I mean, for folks that are, maybe struggling with hiring or need to hire a lot of people, this really breaks it down and shows you where kind of the faults could be and how you can improve that. So going through here, if I go and click this jobs tab up here, it'll bring me to all of my jobs that I've had open. Right now, I'm pulling in jobs from Indeed actually. And so that's what you're actually seeing here, right here. So I can show you kind of what we got going on. So I'm filtering this through May 1st through 7th. So just this week. And basically what this is showing is all of the jobs that are open on Indeed. And this shows you kind of how many clicks we've gotten, how many applies, and if so on and so on and so on. So again, this is a really great tool to kind of figure out, where you're performing well and where maybe you could use some improvement. All right. The last thing I wanted to show you here is the Find Candidates tab. Now, I know I've talked with a few people about the Indeed resume product. And I know in my Facebook post, I said that I wasn't going to sell anybody anything. But as I have been talking with folks, this is kind of been the thing that I think has been most helpful for people, just because we're in such a time crunch right now to hire folks. So Indeed Resume is a great tool in order to just source candidates and go out and find exactly what you're looking for. Basically what it is it's a database of all the resumes in Indeed. And it's, Indeed is the #1 job site in the world with over 250 million people monthly. That's unique visitors monthly visiting. And so as you can imagine, there's a lot of resumes in here. So what's great about this, again, you can go in here and search for exactly what you're looking for. So say I want to search for camp director in Austin, Texas. That's where I'm located. I realized I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, and that probably would have been helpful to know, but I am in Austin, Texas right now, originally from the Seattle area, but we're going to go through and do Austin, Texas. So camp director in Austin, Texas. What this does is this brings up all of the resumes, 158, within a 25-mile radius that have some sort of camp director or camp experience. So now I can go through here and I can look and see, okay, there's 158 people that have some sort of camp or camp related experience. What's great is that there's all these filters over here on the side. So you can filter it down by job title. You can filter it down by company. You can filter it down by years of work experience, military service, education, assessment, all sorts of different things. Let's say I wanted to filter it down by company, and we'll say we click Indeed. That's going to bring up one resume, and that's mine right there because I'm the only camp director that I think has ever worked at Indeed. So that is that there. This is the free version that I'm showing you right now. There is with the free version, you can only see how many resumes and what kind of people are out there. With the paid version, then you can go in and contact them. You can see their name, their contact info, and you're able to message them and reach out. Again, I think a lot of people have found this to be successful. I know I found this successful when I was back hiring, just because you can look for exactly what you're looking for and kind of pick and choose what you want. I will say that, with the time crunch right now and just how close we are to the summer, this is probably going to be your best option for finding folks. You can go in and you can sponsor jobs and you can, sponsor it as much as you like. You could put as big of a budget as you want behind there, but in all reality, it's more difficult to have candidates come to you than it is to go out and find candidates. So that is all I'm going to say on that. And I'm going to leave it there. So if you're interested in the Indeed resume, there's this little subscription management button up here, and it will kind of walk you through the process of that. The basic subscription is $100 a month. So again, for what you're getting, I think it's worth it. And I would prefer doing that over sponsored jobs at this point if I were a camp director hiring for folks. So that's all I'm going to say on that. That is really all that I have today in terms of that. Couple of things I wanted to note. So when you're writing job descriptions, few things to note. First, the job title, try to make that just as simple as possible. Indeed is really based on keywords. And what we found is that, through all of the technical stuff that goes on through our computers here in Austin, basically what happens is when somebody goes on and searches for a camp job, it's going to show them the most relevant job title that correlates with what the candidate is looking for. So try to make your job titles as simple as possible. I've seen some job titles be, especially in the trucking industry, they'll be like, now hiring CDL A, B, C driver, $500 bonus, home by midnight every night. And it's just like, that's what we call an overstuffed job title. And I kid you not, this is what happens. And they don't get any candidates because it's overstuffed and people don't want to apply to those jobs and they're just not popping up in the search engine. So keep your job titles as relevant as possible and as simple as possible. Number two, job descriptions. Really what I recommend and what I think most people in Indeed recommend is just trying to keep it simple. Again, simple is the best thing here. Try to do like an intro paragraph about your company, few bullet points about the job, a few bullet points about the requirements, and then the equal employment opportunity stuff that you got to put in the bottom of job descriptions. That's really what we recommend. Bullet points are going to be your friend there. What I've been telling camp folks is to include in bold at the top of your job description season dates. And this is kind of going back to that question or comment earlier we had about folks not knowing that it was a seasonal kind of position. So at the top of your job description, put in bold season dates, compensation, benefits, room and board, whatever kind of info you have there, put that right at the top. And I think that, when folks go in and see that, that's going to be their indicator like, oh, okay, this is very clear. I now know that I'm going to work June 1st through August, whenever, and I'm going to go through and show you that really quick, actually, because I do have an example of that. So right here under job description, I have these 4 kind of stars right here. So seasonal role, only 8 weeks, feels like 8 months. Compensation, LOL. We all know how compensation is with camps. Room and board, a cabin with 8 kids and a counselor, and benefits, you get a free gym membership. So obviously don't put in some of that stuff, right? Put in what's relevant to you. But this is kind of what my job description looks like. So pretty simple, pretty clean. You got that intro paragraph there, responsibilities, skills. And again, if this were an actual job, I would put in, the HR related stuff that we're supposed to include in there. So that is that. Sarah, I am ready for Q&A.
Okay, thank you. So we are getting some comments in the chat, and if you have other questions, if you could add them to the Q&A function, that will help me just keep them organized. We have some questions about these like assessments. I guess if someone views a job on Indeed, that's really good, right? Like the keywords got them there. But at what part do they like trickle off and decide not to follow through with applying? Is it because, oh, these assessments are confusing me, or it's too much, or I'm not ready for them? Is it that it's too confusing? Like, when do we lose people? And how do you feel about these kind of hurdles that they might have to jump through before they actually get on the phone with you or that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is during my time in Indeed, this has probably been one of the things that I've enjoyed most learning about and just kind of investigating. Indeed has done so much research on this. And for me, like, as somebody that's used Indeed before as an employer, somebody that's used Indeed before as a job seeker, and now somebody that works in Indeed, it's just like, it's amazing to think about this kind of stuff, right? So there's a few different kind of ways that candidates will drop off. One, and I think I mentioned this earlier, if you're using that kind of scraping method where you're coming from your pulling that job from your website and posting onto Indeed, we see quite a bit of drop off there, just because candidates are then having to go through a lot longer process, right? The second thing is maybe the job description isn't good, right? Again, I shared the job description example and just keeping it simple, putting the compensation in there, the room and board, benefits, all of that. When candidates see that, they know that, okay, this is a legit job, and they're seeing all of the information up front. I know for me, when I'm applying for a job, I want to see all that info up front, and I want employers to be upfront about that. So that's that. The other thing is just following up with candidates too. That's something that that can be a detractor for people. I couldn't imagine people doing that right now, especially running camps. But I'll be honest, I recently applied to a job and they didn't get back to me in a few weeks, and so I ended up, and I should probably say that May 14th is my last day at Indeed, and so I'm moving on and moving back to Washington. But anyway, I ended up going with another job because this employer did not get back to me. So make sure that you're getting back to your candidates in a timely manner, because that's really important too.
So let's talk a little bit more about keywords. Summer is, I think it was Kelly that wrote summer, day camp, leader, camp counselor. Are there keywords that you think are really effective? Is camp counselor too narrow in some instances? What are you advising there?
Yeah, I think, again, just trying to keep those job titles as simple as possible. Camp counselor, camp director, program staff, things like that. Those are going to have more, those are going to have better results. What I have been telling people is, when it comes to all of the fun stuff that we like to add to our job titles, put that in the job description, because those are still going to be things that come up in the search engine and when folks search for jobs.
Okay, so the job description does help.
Yeah,
But don't try to be cute with the title because no one's searching for something cute. They're searching for
exactly.
like summer job or like camp counselor, summer camp
Exactly.
counselor.
And to be honest,
Yeah.
you're going to get less visibility there. So
Yeah.
try to keep it as simple as possible.
And then if you want to be cute, do it later on in the job description, but still be
Exactly.
clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
So John writes an interesting question. John's talking about looking to hire current college students. And obviously, we can't discriminate on age or
Mhm.
that sort of thing, but current college students are a great match for being a camp counselor. They have the summers off, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Is there a way to target your postings toward people that are currently studying or current students?
I think there's a couple of different things here that I would recommend. One would be the Indeed resume function. Again, you're able to go in there and literally look up anything that you want, relevant experience, relevant education, whatever it may be. You can go in there and see the resumes itself and see where people are at. Again, might get a little tricky with age discrimination and stuff like that. And so I would recommend Indeed resume. The other thing though is that location feature, advertising in different locations. Target those college towns. Target those college towns because I think that you could see some success there.
And so if you had, let's say $250 budget that you could spend, you're the camp director, this month toward a service like Indeed, how would you allocate that? I'm hearing from you the $100 toward being able to look at resumes. I'm hearing money toward being able to post in more than one location with permission. How much does that cost? And how do you determine like what's worth it or what's not worth it if you're working with a limited budget?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it's gonna be different in every market, right? If I post a camp counselor job in Seattle, where it's very populated, there's lots of people, right? It's probably going to recommend a higher budget. Now, if I post a job in San Marcos, Texas, which is like 40 minutes from where I live right now, and it's very like I don't know, there's not many people down. I don't go down there, but it's probably going to be a different recommended budget. So I think to answer that question, it's going to depend where you're at. I would again, if I were hiring folks and I needed them to start in 3 to 4 weeks, I would use the Indeed resume function. I would still post jobs on Indeed. I would probably still sponsor them, but I would focus, if I had a limited budget, I would still focus that on the Indeed resume, just because I know that I'm going to be able to go out and search for who I want and what I'm looking for.
And these kind of subscription fees that you pay per month, are you locking in to a year or could I just pay for like May and June or something like that?
Yeah, there's a monthly subscription, there's an annual subscription. So, I mean, to be honest, I've been telling people to just do the 1 month, then cancel it because there's no use for it there. And I probably shouldn't say that on as an Indeed employee, but I mean, you're only going to use it for a month, so I would just recommend doing that route.
So this is kind of maybe a problem unique to camps. Megan writes, we're struggling to find male overnight counselors. Are there tips for that? I know you can't really, choose on gender.
Yeah.
Any way to attract male candidates specifically to apply?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a tough thing to find male, identifying counselors. That's always tough. It's always tough, and I know that it's especially tough this season. To be honest, I don't have any tips as it's related to using Indeed. Right? We at Indeed we strive to be as inclusive as possible, and so we don't allow for postings to be like hiring male counselors or hiring female. Right? We can't do that. I think what I would recommend, and I think somebody said this earlier, is just like reaching out to the staff that you already have, reaching out to past staff, and be like, hey, do you have any guy friends that are looking for jobs? Do you have any male identifying friends that are looking for a seasonal summer role? I think that would probably be the best route to go at this point.
Um, and I guess I just want to ask, Dana writes a question. I want to ask for some clarification on these multiple locations. So the
Mhm.
camp I used to run, for example, is in rural northern Michigan, where there wasn't a ton of population, and most of our counselors came from downstate and out of state. And so in that situation, I wouldn't want to advertise in the radius around the camp. Maybe I would. Maybe I'd get a handful of people, but
Yeah.
I'd be more likely to pull from people within driving distance. So if my camp was in a single location, would
Mhm.
you recommend that I pay for the expanded plan where I could advertise in like 10 regions and then just choose like 10 college towns within driving distance of my camp, like, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Ann Arbor, Detroit, or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely recommend that just because the way Indeed is set up is when you post that job wherever you're hiring, let's say Austin, Texas, it's going to post that in a 25-mile radius. So anything that's outside of a 25-mile radius, people are not going to see. And so, yeah, using that multi-location tool and posting in different, let's say Houston and Dallas and Fort Worth, right? Posting those different locations, you're going to pull in more candidates that way.
Yeah, what I would probably do, honestly, is sort the zip codes from which my campers come,
Yeah,
and figure out if I can plot those on a map and choose 10, metro areas that most of my campers are coming from. Because if a lot of
absolutely.
campers come from that area, they've seen the sweatshirts, they know it's not terribly far away, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so there is some confusion that Kelly writes about like a pay for each applicant plan, which is not what
Mhm.
she wanted. Is that something you'd advise? Where did she go wrong with that? Or is that a helpful tool that, she could leverage?
Yeah. I Indeed has in the last 2 or 3 months, I want to say, rolled out the cost per application model. It used to be a cost per click model. And what we were seeing is that people were just paying for clicks, and then people were paying for a lot of clicks, and they weren't actually getting any applicants. So this system actually works better because you're only paying for the applicants that you get, instead of people just clicking your job. Because I could go into Indeed today, and if we were using the or cost per click model, I could go click on every job, and I could start charging everybody, money because I'm just clicking on the job. I wouldn't do that. I'm a nice guy, I promise. But the cost per application model is definitely better. So, yeah, that's what I got to say on
So if
that.
you do have the budget for it, it might be a good thing to experiment with if you get higher quality
Yeah, and what's great too is
applicants.
that when you do post a job, like it asks you how many applicants you want, right? And so when you put in the amount of applicants that you want, it'll give you the recommended budget. And if that's within your budget, great. If it's not, then you could scale it down, and it'll show you how many applicants you can get. You're still going to get that free traffic too, even when you do sponsor a job. You're still getting free traffic, so that's also great.
So there's another question. This is kind of the flip side of the overnight camp where you want applicants maybe to move there for the summer.
Mhm.
But if you're a day camp, is there a way to ensure that you only get local applicants? I mean, maybe a 25-mile radius is actually too far. I think if I put a 25-mile radius around Chicago or something, that's a long commute to get to my day camp.
Yeah,
Is there a way to narrow that, or how do you try to get people that are more
sure.
local?
Yeah, I think just being upfront in your job description about it, making sure that folks are okay with the commute. There's an option when you go in, and set up your job right there at the end. I think I talked about this earlier. There's the applicant qualifications section, right? And in there, there's, you can add something along the lines of this job is located in blank. Is this commute okay? And they can write yes or they can write no. They click yes or click no. And so that's a great way to do that. But yeah, just being upfront in the job description, I think, is probably the best way to go
That's
there.
like an easy assessment question. It's not like upload your CPR cards and like you can't find them anywhere. It's just like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I can go a half an hour to work or I can't.
Exactly.
Um, so Dana writes a question about the daily job budget versus the monthly job budget. Do you have
Mhm.
any tips about those two different options?
Honestly, it just depends on what your budget looks like. For us on the back end, it's always easier when we're kind of, and some of y'all might have dedicated reps here. Some of you guys might not, and that's okay. But if you do have a dedicated rep, an account executive, client success specialist, it's easier for us on the back end to kind of manage the monthly budget, the monthly kind of budget. We call it a family budget or an all jobs budget. It's just easier to manage it that way, just because it's easier to track. Our system does a better job at, kind of allocating funds to each job that way. And so I would recommend doing that all jobs kind of budget, monthly budget, because I think that you'll probably see better performance there.
And then let's say I'm hiring for like a semi-typical overnight camp, and I have camp counselors, but I also have like a swimming instructor who happens to also live in a cabin, and I have, a cook or these different things. So you recommend kind of creating several different postings for these descriptions, right?
Yep. I would, if you're hiring a swim instructor, put in swim instructor. If you're hiring a lifeguard, put in lifeguard. If you're hiring a cook, put in cook. Definitely, I would recommend putting in those different job titles based on, kind of the main function of their role. But at the same time, just being upfront and very clear about kind of the responsibilities at the top of the job description, I think that would be really helpful. Because, if I were applying to a job and I saw that I was applying to a swim instructor job and I didn't necessarily see the fact that I had to, live in a cabin, right? I would be upset. I would be upset.
So would the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, though, if I was hiring for cabin counselors that also taught activity areas, it might make sense to apply for a camp counselor role or have it as a camp counselor role, put more money toward it and more monitoring toward it, and then have as a bullet point, camp counselors live in a cabin and also help teach in a program area assigned to them, such as archery, arts and crafts, swimming,
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's what I've done in the past, is just putting in the job description again, like, you're a camp counselor, but here are other things that you could do: arts and crafts, tie-dye, blah, 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 all of those different things.
And it might be easier to monitor one job description that you've crafted really well, instead of like 30 that you kind of had to make unique and didn't spend a lot of time on. Now, do you encourage people to like include links in their job descriptions, or is there a way to include images, or is there any way that you can like spice up the job description beyond bullet points?
Good question. Yeah. Links, we try to discourage that, just because, again, you're going to get flagged by our team, and we don't want that. Pictures, we don't have pictures in our Sarah, yeah, I see that links flag you. Okay. It'll flag you. Pictures, we don't do pictures. The one thing that you can do where you can add links and pictures is you can add that to your Indeed company page. So let me share my screen really quick, and I will show you what an Indeed company page looks like. I just got to pull it up here.
So it's worth it to make a really nice Indeed company page.
Absolutely, because where that takes you is that'll take you to kind of the page with all of the information about the company, including reviews. And lots of people go to Indeed company pages for the reviews. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Christian, while you're doing that, it sounds like it would be really smart to ask 10 counselors that have worked for you in the past, or alumni, to write a company review on your company page. Like, that's or a parent, yourself, you're an employee of the company, potentially. Yeah. I mean, to get a few on there really probably legitimizes you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always tell my clients, go and have your employees write a review, because especially for clients that may not have the best reviews, because they have, one or two people that have just been really angry about their job, right? It's always better to go in and try to up those reviews. So this is Indeed's company page right here. This is really great. We've got our video banner up here. We've got our logo. We've got our ratings 4.3, and then there's all these different tabs here. So this is just a snapshot page. There's Chris Himes, our CEO, tells you all of the other information. Why join us? This is kind of the about page. So we've got our news and updates. We've got our life inside Indeed. We've got, all of this different stuff, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. If you're looking for any tips about hiring and diversity and inclusion, Indeed has so many different resources on that, which I found to be really helpful. Here's where you can see kind of the videos and the pictures and stuff like that. All of that is on there. Reviews, you can see all of the reviews. All of that's on there. Salaries, people can go in and report salaries, benefits, photos, jobs. All of your jobs will link to your Indeed company page. So all of this is really great info, and I would definitely recommend going in here and editing what you can. To do this, basically all you do is you go to your employer section here, click the little person icon, click company settings, and then from there you'll be taken to this section here. You can click your company page, and then it'll bring you to your company page. If you have never been on your company page before, most likely you'll need to claim it. And so in order to do that, you click why join us, and then you'll see this box right here that says claim company page. And so you want to click that, go through the steps to do that. And once you do that, then you'll have access to edit it. There is kind of a waiting time there, which is usually like 24 to 48 hours. But again, this is great because you get lots of info and people can kind of learn more about your company and your brand.
So if I was going to do one thing, it's Friday afternoon before the end of the day today, I'd log in and claim my company page. So by Monday, I could probably just copy and paste stuff from my organization's website onto the Indeed thing. So it's all right there.
That's it. Yeah.
So I have one more question
Okay.
from Natalie, which is really interesting. And Natalie is wondering if Indeed has stats about like users, like who's actually on Indeed. Natalie's hearing more that counselors are using CoolWorks, but Natalie's had success hiring nurses on Indeed. So do you have any indicator about like which camp jobs are best suited for Indeed? Other services that people might want to check out, or what you think about demographics of users or job seekers that are on Indeed?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the best way to get folks in your door is word of mouth, right? We all know people that know people that know people, and I think that that's going to be the best way to recruit trusted, well-rounded staff into our camps. In terms of data as it relates to Indeed, I don't have that data right now. I'd be more than happy to go back and get that. I think that where a lot of camps, resorts, folks that are hiring for seasonal summer jobs, the problem that they run into is, we like to post our jobs early. We like to post our jobs in November or December or January, and unfortunately, people that are going on Indeed, I don't think are looking for camp jobs back then, right? People that are going on Indeed are kind of looking for jobs like right now, right when they're applying. And so right now, as we're going into the summer season, I think we're going to see a lot more candidates and applicants looking for summer jobs, right? Because it's just like, it's the end of school. People are like, oh man, I don't have a job. I don't have anything lined up.
I ended up getting a vaccination. I didn't realize this was going to happen.
Yeah.
I need to move out of my parents' house.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think that this is going to be the time where we see a lot more candidates starting to look for those summer jobs. So I hope that answers your question.
Okay. So it sounds like not necessarily sure about like age demographics or experience demographics, but it does sound really compatible with those kind of last minute job seekers. And that's the phase of camp hiring that we're in right now.
Yes.
And then Christian, do you think you could do a screen share to show where you could do like the 1 month subscription? Is that something you're able to navigate to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Let me roll over there really quick. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
It's also thunderstorming where I am, so I'm sorry if there's like spooky background noises coming through.
It's all good. It's all good. All right. So here we are here. I'm just on this dashboard page here. If I go over here to find candidates, which is that middle tab, from there, I can click either get started, or I can click the subscription management page up here. And this will take me to that page there. And from there, you can kind of go through the subscription options. There are 2 subscription options. If you're contacting 30 per month, you click that one, obviously. Then there's 100 per month one too. The other thing that I realized I didn't mention earlier about this subscription is you do get credits back. So you get 30 credits a month, basically that, 1 credit equals 1 reach out. If you reach out to somebody and they say, yes, I'm interested, then you get 2 of those credits back, which is really awesome. If you reach out to somebody though and they say, no, they're not interested, you still get 1 credit back. So that's really great. Whether they say yes or no, you're getting credits back. The unfortunate part is that if they don't say anything at all and they just, don't respond, you don't get anything back. So that really encourages employers to just be personable and make their messages more personalized when they're reaching out.
Yeah, like addressing the candidate by name, starting with the pitch of why the job's important, and then maybe even saying something, pumping them up is what I would do. I
Yeah,
saw this on your resume and it really got me excited that, you might be a really good fit for our organization, or you'd really be able to make an impact at our organization.
exactly.
That feels good versus like the spam that we all get. That's like, I've got a great opportunity for you. And you're like, do you?
Yeah, exactly,
Sounds
exactly.
like you want me to sell something. Christian, what would be kind of like your final points if you were still a camp director and you needed 10 more staff, what are a few things that you would be doing in the next week? We talked about claiming that company profile is what you can do today, but what would you be
Yeah.
adding to your to-do list right now for next week, just to recap?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is just keep the faith. It's going to be hard. I know this is going to be a hard summer for lots of folks, if not everybody. So keep pushing on. You guys are doing great work, and kids are going to need camp this summer. So don't forget that. That's the number one thing to remember. What I would recommend in terms of Indeed, uh, really take a look at your job descriptions, take a look at your job titles, take a look at Indeed resume. I think we hammered that one pretty hard. And then, yeah, the company page, go through, claim that if you haven't already, and then, yeah, take a look and edit that because I think that'll be really helpful for you all. I'm going to go ahead and just post a few links here in the chat that I'm not because it didn't copy over. Sarah, what I'll do is I can send these over to you and then maybe we can just email them out or post them on the Summer Camp Society page. But there's just there's I think 4 or 5 links basically that go through how to write a job description, how to write a job description for Gen Z, how to use Indeed resume, the do's and don'ts of contacting folks.
Oh,
So
super
there's some
helpful.
really good information there, and
Yeah.
I'll pass it along.
We'll email out a link to the recording, and so we'll
Perfect.
include that with the link. And then Christian, if people like Austin just wrote, they're having trouble uploading pictures on their account and it won't work, sad face. If people are having trouble, you don't have a ton of time left with Indeed. What's the best way to get support? Is it through the
Yeah,
chat? Is it through calling? What
I
would you
would
say?
I would reach out to me. I'm feel free to share my email with everybody. That's fine. What I can do, because a lot of people have dedicated client success specialists and dedicated account executives, what I'll do is I'll just find out who that person is and I'll forward that information to them. So yeah, if you have questions or issues, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to kind of forward that along. And if you don't have a dedicated rep, then yeah, the best way to kind of reach out is through the chat function on Indeed.
Yeah, so for little things, it sounds like they'd be pretty responsive that way
Yeah.
about photos or problems paying or what have you.
Yep.
Um,
Exactly.
okay, well, it sounds like the client success specialists are there to help and they're not going to charge you for
Yeah.
getting advice.
No,
So
yeah, we are, we are there to support our clients, and yeah, that's what we're there for. It's all
that's great.
free. Yeah,
Yeah, they could call you or someone like you and have a 15-minute chat about strategy and not get a bill for it.
exactly,
So that's
exactly.
like an incredible resource right
Yep.
there. Okay, well, Christian, we want to say thank you so much for volunteering your time to help all the camp directors find more staff. And
Yeah.
we'll look for those resources and send them out by Monday for folks. I also want to share that on Monday, the Summer Camp Society is hosting a webinar about centering BIPOC voices in camping. So we have an amazing panel lined up for Monday, and that is from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you're interested in that, I've put the link in the chat for that webinar. We'd love to see more people sign up, and you also receive the recording of that if you sign up, so you can share it with your staff or use it for staff training or that sort of thing. So we're hoping that many of you will join us for that. And if there's other things you're struggling with, other groups like Indeed you'd like to hear from, let us know. We can call these folks and say, hey, we have 190 camp directors that want to hear from you, get tips from you. So let's kind of use our collective power to get more great voices like Christians in the mix. So that's all. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your Friday afternoon. Christian, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to your 3-month-old corgi puppy now, and the rest of us can return to our otherwise ordinary lives. So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks again.
Thanks everybody. Good luck this summer, and
Take
yeah, take care.